Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to EuroNurse. We meet every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you're joining us from YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, hey, glad to have you on board. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe, share button. And if this is your first time joining us here on EuroNurse, be sure to check out our website at euronurse.com, where you can find out more information about the show. It's also the best place to go to see all of our past episodes. And hey, we've got 44 of those episodes in the cooker there for you to watch. So be sure to check that out. If you're interested in information on how to help sponsor the show, you can go and check out our sponsorship information. And of course, the way you interact with us is this button or this box right down here, the comment box. No matter which format you're using, comment box is always available for you to send in questions, shout outs. If you just want to tell us, hey, hi, like the show, whatever, go ahead and feel free to put anything in there. We got a great show this week. Brian Mohika is joining us, and he's going to be talking about a product that he brought to market called CathWare. So we're really interested in learning more about that. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our expert. Brian Mohika is joining us. Let's bring that in here. Hey, welcome, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So for those of you that are new to the show, my name is Vic Sinise. I am the host and producer of the show. Been involved in urology for nearly 4 decades, so lots of experience. And I really enjoyed paying it forward to all of you by sharing this information. Brian, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Brian Mohika. I am the CEO and inventor of CathWare. I'm also a registered nurse, and I'm excited to be here today. I have a lot to share, which I believe will add value to someone who may be inventing a product or possibly venturing down that road. And I'll just go ahead and give the spoiler alert. It is difficult, but that's where the journey is.
You know, what's the old adage? If it wasn't difficult, everyone would do it, right?
Exactly. Somebody should have told me that before I started.
I think that will be interesting to find out what's involved, how much is involved in making all this happen. So, folks, if you have any comments or questions, any general questions you want to post, go ahead and feel free to put those out there. We are going to go into our favorite stories. If somebody wants to share a story online, you can go ahead and type that in. I'll be glad to put that up there. I have a favorite story that I'm going to share with you this week. Kind of interesting. I don't know whether some of you have noticed or not, but I started working with this thing called Shorts in YouTube and Reels in Facebook. So what they are is, instead of having the way I normally like to shoot video this way, they're all shot this way. So you can kind of scroll with your phone and watch them. They all have to be less than a minute. And this is something that I know that YouTube and Facebook are doing to try to compete with TikTok. A lot of people like to be able to just kind of scroll through and watch these things, quickly. So anyway, I decided I'm going to, dip my toe into that format. I'm trying to become a social influencer, I guess. So anyway, I started creating some of those and posted them. Now, the interesting thing is, and a lot of this show has been kind of a crazy experience for me. I never know what's going to be the end result, but I found out that it's pretty popular. And I was really surprised. What I've been posting mostly are kind of commercials for upcoming shows, little teasers. And also, I thought, some of the older shows now, we're getting close to 1 year. Some of the older shows people don't probably find as easily because you got to scroll way down to find them. So I started posting a little teaser for those shows. Well, I just recently posted one for bladder cancer. And I was surprised that within the first day, it had 1,000 views on Facebook. It was just crazy that, so this format works. And I'm going to stick with it because I think it's another way of getting information to the public. But I was really kind of surprised by that it had such a quick appeal. So I guess maybe I am going to become a social influencer. Brian, do you have a story you'd like to share?
Yes. There is a Five Guys restaurant, which we frequent. And there's a sign in there. There's a lot of reviews or whatever that from like famous people that they'll post up on the wall that you can see while you're waiting in line. And there is one in particular that it caught my eye the first time I went into this Five Guys restaurant, and it said Five Guys does something extremely well: burgers and fries. Excuse me, Five Guys does two things extremely well: burgers and fries. And it showed me the power of simplification, showed me the power of just doing what you're good at only. And I love looking at the sign, because you're not getting a steak and cheese and Five Guys. You're not getting a pizza. You're not getting mozzarella sticks. We're going to make you a burger. We'll make it however you want, but it's a burger. And we will give you fries. It's one kind of fries. We have some dipping sauces if you want to add different flavor. And they are a very successful food chain. And I just look at my life, I look at my business, my career, and I say to myself, what are the two things, if you will, that I do extremely well? Am I trying to do more than that?
Yeah, I think that's a really a good point. I remember back in the days when Apple was a kind of a floundering company, when Steve Jobs had left it for a while, or got canned, I think. And he came back, and the first thing he did when he came back is he looked at the product line and said, "We're getting rid of everything but the four things that we really need to be involved in." He drew a little square on the blackboard and said, "This is what we need to concentrate on. This will make us successful." Well, I guess since it's one of the largest companies in the world, it's probably was a good point. So yeah, I think that's really a something we need to keep in mind. Sometimes you want to get involved in everything, and then you just can't. You find what your niche is and then invest yourself in that. Makes a lot of sense. So, all right. Well, with that, I'm going to bring you up as a speaker. Did you want your slides up now, or?
No, we can bring it up in a moment.
Okay. So let me just make you full screen here. There we go. So Brian, go ahead. You got the floor.
Well, as I mentioned already, I am a registered nurse. I invented a medical underwear designed for patients who require the use of leg bags called CathWare. And I own currently now 8 patents, 7 US patents and 1 European patent for different designs and things of the sort. Today, I wanted to talk about CathWare, and I want to talk about the journey that I've had with CathWare to understand that it truly is a marathon. It truly is a marathon, and I misjudged how long of a marathon it is. But man, have I grown. I've grown. My family has grown through this journey. We must understand that as medical professionals, we're obligated to innovate and invent. Innovate, I know sometimes people use those interchangeably, but innovate for me is more like a system, and invent is a product. We have the clinical experience to make an impact in the patient's lives. And that's what I decided to do with CathWare. I'd see patient after patient coming in with the leg bags around their thigh or around their ankle. And the bags would just significantly reduce the patient's quality of life. I'd see patient after patient coming in, getting drains placed, getting drains replaced. And there was really no solution for it outside of the antiquated straps, which those straps, they become unsanitary, they cause skin tears, and they pose a lot of medical complications for the patients, especially when they over-tighten it. The bag slides up and down the leg. The plastic to skin creates sweat points. Again, patients over-tighten the straps because they don't want it to move, They're not thinking what we're thinking, which is you're going to essentially create a tourniquet-like effect around your leg. They're thinking, I don't want this thing to move, so I'm just going to put this strap as tight as I can. They develop rashes, skin tears, and it's a significant reduction in their quality of life. And you can bring the image up now, sir.
Okay.
What I invented was CathWare, this medical underwear designed for this patient population. CathWare is a medical underwear that is washable, machine washable, and machine dryable. But the key features of it are CathWare removes the use of the Velcro straps. So now the patients no longer have to utilize the straps. They can put the pouch in a 600 or smaller pouch system here, which does not restrict the flow of the urine. It has a valve that opens up at the bottom to create easy access. So if you're wearing shorts, skirt, or a dress, you'll be able to just access the valve and empty the contents into a collecting receptacle without having to remove the pouch. The X-looking feature that you see is a catheter channel tract. I designed that for because that's when I would get called into the operating room in the middle of the night, because the patients would inadvertently pull on the tubing because the tubing wasn't concealed. The catheter channel tract keeps all of the tubing concealed and close to the patient's body. Now you have the opportunity to use the catheter channel tract or not. You can just go right into the pouch. If you look at the very top, there's a legend depicting each drain. So there's nephrostomy, suprapubic, biliary, and Foley drains. I wanted to design CathWare so that it encompassed all the drains, which is significant to what happens when nurses innovate. Because when we innovate, we're able to look at all of the patient's plight and come up with the best design. Now, there are some products in our category, but you can tell that they were invented either by the patient or the caregivers themselves, because it only solves one or two problems. When we innovate, we're able to tackle a lot more of the problems and bring a greater value to our designs to impact patient care. The patients are able to now wear skirt, wear a dress, wear shorts, and a significant increase in the patient's quality of life when they utilize CathWare and they're wearing a leg bag. We're #1 on Amazon with a 4.1 star rating going on our 5th year. And everyone knows if you have a bad product, Amazon is going to let you know. But if you have a good product, Amazon is going to let you know. There's almost 700 reviews that we have with doctors, nurses, caregivers, but most importantly, the patients themselves testifying to the benefit of CathWare. Not only that, but we're the only product in our category that is invented by a registered nurse. We're the only product in our category that is also covered by Medicare. So the doctors can write a script and have Medicare covered. I wanted to talk today not just about my journey with CathWare, but I believe that there are a lot of questions out there where we can get into a Q&A, and there's a greater value in me answering your questions versus me continuing to speak about my journey. And I want to encourage you to this is the moment to ask, what are some misconceptions? What are some things that you're afraid of? What are some things that are holding you back? Or if you're looking for a starting point, this is the platform to do that. So if anyone has any questions, just enter your questions in the comment box, and then we'll be able to look through the comment box and I'll answer them if they are directed to me. But this is it. This is our time. This is your time. And this is the time to get our questions asked and push our innovations and inventions forward.
That was really great. I appreciate your insight into what was involved in it and how you built this device. Again, questions are open. Use the comment box. Go ahead and put those through, and we'll go and bring them on screen as I see them coming in. A couple questions I have for you. So you said it's available or covered by Medicare. So, and I'm assuming you can get it through Amazon without a prescription, correct?
Yes, it's available for retail on Amazon, online, or on our proprietary website. And we're also available if the doctor gives you a script. We have a vendor, a third-party vendor that covers our scripts with inventory on hand.
Okay. And what's the best way to find out about Medicare coverage? Is it go to your website or?
Yeah, at CathWear.com.
Okay. So that's, if you're going to use a prescription, CathWear.com would be the place to go to find out of the vendor. Who, by the way, is it that you work through?
We have just some brick and mortars, medical suppliers that we have. There's one in Maine, but
they ship
shipped to the house.
You just everything. One of the benefits of COVID is that we have a lot more access to each other. You know, we're available through Zoom now, so everything is they just call up. I send them, you know, they send a fax over to this company in Maine. They have the units, ship it out to them. We're also available in Cardinal Health, and we're starting to make a lot of progress through the larger distributors.
So I can tell you that from personal experience with 40 years of taking care of patients and catheters, you know, it definitely is a big issue for patients, how to handle these bags. And you know, they come in for their catheter changes. And like you said, the bags sometimes look like they've been through the war. The holes that sometimes the buttons go through are ripped. So I've seen patients duct tape them to their legs a lot. And then, you know, that sticky tape, you can't get that off your legs. I mean, we've all been through it. It's a common experience that patients will come up with, you know, these inventions of their own. But, you know, really to have something like what you came up with, such a good, you know, product, especially for people. I think, you know, if you're wearing a short-term catheter, a few days, it's obviously not worth the investment. But if you're going to be somebody with a permanent Foley catheter or other drainage things, I think this is really a big plus to stop that
I
kind
agree.
of stuff.
Well, what the mobility, the improvement in mobility. I mean, I'm a U.S. veteran, so I visited some of the veteran facilities, and you see the veterans just walking around in shorts, hanging down by the leg, because it starts out by the thigh. Right? The bag starts out by the thigh, but then the weight of the bag starts to weigh down onto the thigh, and it ends up down by the ankle.
All right. We are getting some questions in here. Neil Smith sends a question. With the connections to Foley drainage bags and nephrostomy drainage bags being different, are there different 600 mil bags for these, or are there adapters to use the same model of bag?
Correct. So there is the difference between a drainage bag and a urine bag. So all of the bags already come connected from the doctor's office or operating room. For example, if they have a nephrostomy tube, the nephrostomy tube has the tubing that is extremely long or longer, and it's embedded into the leg bag. So the leg bag fills, but the tubing is there. So that connection there's nothing that we would do to that. Then that end is connected to the drainage catheter that's inside of the kidney, and then that's on with a Luer lock. So we don't deal with anything at that level. When it's a Foley, it has the Christmas tree adapter, but the Foley just goes right on top of the Christmas tree adapter. So as far as
you're not providing bags, so you strictly
exactly. It's just the underwear. Yeah,
right, exactly. That's I think that was the question: was is there some different bags that you provided? That fit this, so it fits up to a 600 cc bag. All right, great.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Susie says, how do you know what size to order, and should you order more than one?
That's a great question, Susie. We have a size chart on our website. And also, in addition to the size chart, we recommend patients ordering the normal underwear size. CathWare replaces the patient's normal underwear. So you wouldn't be able to wear underwear and the CathWare unit because it would be essentially like wearing two forms of underwear. That's why I designed it to have high quality material, washable, durable. And because it's washable and machine washable and dryable, we recommend that patients get one per day if it's allowed for within their budget. And if the doctors are going to write a script, the doctor should write one CathWare unit per day for 7 days.
That's covered by Medicare then, 7.
It depends on the state. However, it also depends on the doctor writing that on the script, which could override any type of limitation. Gotcha. But if not, if you just get one, then you'll be getting one and then have to wash it every day or wear it every day or whatever.
Yeah, correct. Well, what is the cost if you were buying this out of pocket?
$39.99, and that's across all platforms. So we practice MAP pricing. Amazon, our website, the vendors, we sell it at $39.99. With Medicare, it comes out to about $6 to $8 for the patients.
Wow.
And then we also, when we partner up with distributors and suppliers, we sell at $25 a unit wholesale. The national reimbursement rate for CathWare is $47.08.
That's good to know. So again, folks, got questions coming in. Yep, I got some more coming in. Not a question, but I had assumed there may have been proprietary drainage bags in my last question. So that Neil was asking about the 600, are there different 600 mil bags for these? So I guess he was assuming there's different proprietary. I'm not sure if
there are different bags with different valves. Some of them are like a Christmas tree style of valve, you know, where you twist it. Some of them, it's like a clamp, so it clamps the end of it. But all of those fit through the end of the pouch.
So those pretty much it's universally any bag will work in those underwear.
Correct. We haven't had any issues with bags. I've only seen those two types of ends on the leg bag, is the clamp and then the twisting valve. And then Susie Swain asks, what sizes do you carry? We carry from small to 4XL. And we carry them in 3 colors, in black, in white, and in beige.
And I assume they're universal, not unisex, I should say, not male.
Yeah,
female.
Definitely unisex.
Yeah. So you just have to figure out what size would be best for the patient.
What are some of the products that you're recommending for your patients that are similar to CathWare? I wanted to ask the panel as well. What are some areas where you think that I could help, you could help me make CathWare more visible? I get calls all the time to the website from patients yelling at me, and they're like, you know, I went to my doctor's office and he doesn't know about this. Why doesn't he know about this? And I always tell them it's my fault. You know, I'm not doing a good enough job with the marketing, making it visible.
Yeah.
I'm certainly trying. We launched right before COVID, and man, we took off. We took off, and we launched October of 2019, and then when the COVID shutdown came, February of 2020, it was gone. All the momentum we had, it was gone. For those 18 months, it was really, really hard, and I just kept pushing. You know, some people, some phone calls. You know, they're like, Brian, I like the product, but I'm just not thinking about underwear right now. I'm not thinking about catheters right now. And I'm like, but I am, like, come on. And it was very humbling. Lost some business partners along the way that didn't see what we thought. I mean, we were thinking, you know, we were going to hit this thing out of the water. You know, luckily I didn't buy that Ferrari that I always wanted. And but it's been tough. My passion is to reach these patients. I just have a passion. I'm a man on a mission to help these patients. I think that it's a niche market. It's an underserved patient population, because, you know, we as medical professionals, we post procedure, we give them all the discharge paperwork, all the gauze, all the tape, all the catheter and leg bag, and, you know, if you're bleeding, call me. If you have pain, call me. If you have any infection, call me. You know, any fever, call me. You know, all right. And then the patient gets home and they shut the door. Boom. Now what? Their body's mutilated. We have a excuse me. We have a pediatric version as well.
Oh, okay.
You know, the body is mutilated. They're sitting at home, and now we're telling them, you know, to have a leg bag. That's a significant reduction in quality of life. That's why I believe CathWare is for the hospitals. I know that hospitals, it's not ideal to have a catheter, a CathWare unit placed on a patient in an acute care setting. Because if I go in and I'm checking I&Os and I see a patient with CathWare underwear on, I'm like, dude, take that off. Like, you can put it on when you go home, but I'm trying to get in and get out. However, when they get a drain and they're leaving the hospital at the outpatient level and they are getting all of those supplies, that is the key spot where CathWare can intercept the patient on the way home, improving the patient's quality of life, but also improving the procedure outcomes. Because when the drain gets pulled and this patient is starting to have complications and they have to come back to the hospital, it looks bad for the hospital, regardless of what is causing the patient to come back. We're also doing a clinical trial with the pediatric version at Children's National Hospital at some point this year. So I just wanted to share that those are the key points. I know we have some other questions coming in, so we can keep going.
Yeah. I had a question for you. So, as far as you were saying, getting the word out, I think that, or probably more a comment than a question. This is a great place, I think, to have this, because we reach an audience of nurses. We're the people in the trenches that are dealing with these patients. And, if you don't know about these products, you don't probably have them in your office. You don't have any brochures on it, or even a website information to pass along to patients. So I think that this is one of the big marketing tools, is by doing a talk like this, it's going to really help to get the word out there and hopefully translate into better patient care, which is what I want. And, of course, more products being sold and it was what you want. So I'm sure it'll work out. So Neil Smith said, to be honest, marketing materials would help. Cardboard, poster board, standees, or wall materials in the exam room. If patients see these exist, they'll ask about trying them. I think that's a good point, Neil. That's a lot of times you see patients picking up brochures on the way out of the offices and stuff.
Yeah. And you can download a brochure from our website. Our Medicare approval letter is on our website. The instructional inserts are on our website. And those are beneficial because then you can email them to the patients before they even come. So,
yeah, I think that's a good point. And that you could probably even, most practices have websites. It'd be nice if they would embed your link, to go directly to your website, because I think that's always the biggest problem is lack of knowledge. There could be great things out there, but if nobody knows about it, we had recently a company that's produced a external catheter for females called UriCap. I never heard of it before, but they approached the program to talk about it. And again, like I said, it's just getting that information out there so people know there's other options out there than having to deal with diapers all night long with somebody who's, in bed bound or
yeah, UriCap is a good product.
Yeah. So it's really, I think that's the whole point that I wanted to be able to get through with this program, was a way to get information out to people. So I think this has been very successful. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Anything else? I know I was going to ask you, as far as your website, do you have a patient education? I know it looks pretty simple to use, but you got those channels and things. Is there something?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. As a nurse, our job is education. So I do have tutorials, video tutorials on the website for each drain.
Yeah, that's good, because that's the most helpful, because patients get home and they look at this thing and they go, now what do I do? It looks great, but they don't know how to get it to function properly. So and I was unaware to your talk about how it had the channels built in for tubes for especially those external drains. We do a lot of nephrostomy tubes and things, and those are just the patients got tubes going everywhere. And as you said, they're prone to get pulled out, which is a big issue. So I think that's something that'll help. April said, you mentioned the journey after the idea. What was the next step in getting your product made? So, yeah.
That was the most humbling part. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. The American Urology Association hadn't been here for 20 years. This was back when we launched in 2016. And 2017. We launched in 2016, then 2017. And we were like, wow, this is working out. This is just fish in a barrel here. About 20,000 urologists that were in town. We live 25 minutes outside of Boston. And we didn't have a product. We just had a mannequin. We had barely a prototype. And the doctors loved it. It took us 2 years to come up with the sample. And the doctors that we met, after 2 years, when I finally called them, they didn't even remember who I was. And that was I underplayed that by a long shot. I was like, how hard could it be making an underwear? Just put this there, put that there, and and sell me 1,000. And it's not. It was very difficult. It took us 2 years finding manufacturer after manufacturer after manufacturer after manufacturer. So that was the next step of after the idea. Immediately, though, I want to give you something immediate. When you have an idea, I wrote a book about it. It's available on Amazon called Let It Flow. And it has everything that I'm speaking to you here, the highs and the lows. But Let It Flow details what to do, April. And it will walk you through the process on how to develop a patent and how to find local funding, grants, free money on to get it started. But what I did was I drew images of it. I can draw extremely well, and I was in the U.S. military, so I have a high attention to detail. So what I did was I drew like, man, the camera's throwing me off. I drew an image of CathWare, from an AP perspective, if you will, and then I drew it in a 45 degree angle, and then I drew it at a 90-degree angle, but I would label it each time. Can you bring that image back up, Vic?
Sure.
I essentially drew this, and you see the lines and the little boxes in there, because when you draw it and you label it and you explain it, a lot of things are happening at that time. You're explaining it to yourself. You're problem solving to yourself. You're figuring out things that maybe don't sound right, maybe don't work to yourself. You're making changes, but you have the PhD for your design. I dealt with imposter syndrome for a long time. In the while I was pitching this, I'd walk into hospitals, I'd walk into these clinics, and there were CEOs and surgeons and all of these fancy titles, and it was intimidating. And one day it clicked, and I said, you know what? I have a PhD in my design. Nobody knows this design like I do. And that's where I got my confidence from. And that's where you need to get your confidence from, is that you're the inventor. You're the one that knows that if it works, if it doesn't work. So what I did was I went through every possibility when I was designing CathWare on how somebody could discredit it. And what I did was I turned each opportunity where somebody could discredit it, I fixed it, and I made it a feature. For example, one thing about nurses, and I don't know why we're like that, but it's just the way that we are. We immediately default to, well, that's not going to work. I can't begin to tell you the most resistance that I've had in this journey has been with other nurses. Well, that's not going to work. Well, because the leg bag is going to flow back into the patient's bladder. But that's not true, because manufacturers put in a one-way valve into their urine bags. Now, if it's one of the night bags, the 1500 cc bag, yeah, that one you can drain it right back into the patient's bladder. But that's not what we're doing here. I went to a nursing facility once, and this nurse made one of the aides go and get water and fill it into the leg bag, because she was adamant that that was going to reflux. Even though I told her that I did it myself and I stood on it, and I'm 235 pounds, 6'3", I stood on it and I couldn't get the bag to pop or get it to reflux. She still had the aide go and do it. I'd let the aide fill it up with water. I told the aide she had to, it was a drainage bag, so she had to drink the water and then spit it into the bag. And then I held up the bag and I squeezed it. I didn't stand on it, squeezed it as hard as I could. And then the nurse manager was like, okay. And I'm just like, like nurses, we not only eat our young coming out of school, but we kill innovation. Instead of, reaching me on the side and telling me, hey, check this out or check this out. It's like, we just naturally want to cut people's ideas before they could even start. But I love it because I turn that into motivation for me to make sure that nobody could, the design is foolproof. So what I also noticed is that the design, I made it so that it all flows down and it doesn't impede the flow of gravity.
Yeah, it looks like it's well thought out. You can just see. Like I said, I didn't realize it had those tubing things built into it till you mentioned it. So it really probably something you might want to include in your video showing. I haven't looked at your video, but maybe it does, about how that helps to keep the tubing in the right place.
Yeah.
Question that I had for you though is where do you manufacture your product?
Outside of the United States, which is another issue with getting traction. Is the lead time and stuff like that. But for me, getting the urine to, because then that was another thing. People were like, oh, it's going to impede the flow of urine because it can't reflux. And I'm like, no, everything flows down into the bag, So like I said, all of it is in detail in my book, Let It Flow. But we do manufacture it outside of the United States. As far as I'm a U.S. veteran. I wanted it to be done in the United States. It's about 3-4 times as expensive to do it inside of the United States. I'm not into politics at all. I actually despise politics and politicians. I think they create more division than they do unity. Having said that, I understand now why I would hear people complain about, certain politicians sending jobs overseas. And I said, man, I never knew what the fuss was about until I started, trying to build this business. Like even the brochures, I get them overseas. I mean, I'm getting them for pennies, overseas, and they get shipped, right to my home. And I feel bad because I obviously want to build up America, the greatest nation ever. But I need to survive. I need to make this business grow. And I understand now the fight between sending jobs overseas and stuff like that. Somebody recommended that I get it all pre-packaged. The shipping, the bag that each unit goes into with the brochure and the insert and all labeled up. But, my mom and her friends do it here I'm in my office, in the house. But here, my mom and her friends, they come and they do it. They have a system and they come and they bag everything up. And I said to myself, I would be devastated if I took this job away from my mom and her friends. But that's exactly what the issue is with things that are happening in America. But I get it though. It's I could save so much more money if I sent it somewhere else, So that's the only part of the project that I've kept in-house. And it's just because it's my mom and her friends, and some of them they're immigrant. All of them are immigrants. We're Dominican. I was born here in the United States, but just to tell an immigrant the job that you can do, we're going to send it to someone else that is in their country, that didn't migrate. It just didn't make sense. So those are just little things in the project, that you learn. But I've grown a lot. Nurses are, again, I wrote all about this in my book, Let It Flow. That's available on Amazon. Nurses are emotionally inclined. When you enter into the business world, you have to really check you have to check that at the door, because I was eaten alive. I mean, my business partners, I grew up with them. We known each other since we were kids, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time, and they went about their business, but they're businessmen. So I get these phone calls from people saying, oh my God, your product changed my dad's life. And, one time somebody called and said that they were able to go on one last vacation before their family member went on to be with the Lord. And, they're crying on the phone, telling me that they had double nephrostomy bags. They weren't going to leave the house. The husband or the dad wasn't going to leave the house. He had stage 4 renal cancer. And because of CathWare, they were able to go on one more trip. I was dying. I was crying on the phone with the lady. She hung up the phone. I was crying. This was early on in the vision. And I was like, guys, we're doing something great. And they're like, okay, so how many units is she going to buy?
Yeah.
I was like, what? And it started to click. Some people in the business world, it's very black and white. In the business world, it's what are the numbers? What are the profit margins? And in the health field, especially in nursing, it's like, no, there's no black and white. Like it's all gray, like it's we do whatever it is to be with the patients. And I was leading with my emotions, and that it hindered my ability to effectively lead, because I kept thinking that, well, we all knew each other in high school, so we're all going to hang out again, and we're going to have Thanksgivings together, and we're going to go on vacations together. And they wanted no part of that. They wanted no part of being my friends. They wanted no part of spending any extra time. They were literally in this for the vision and for the money. And I respect them for that, because it was my fault, because I was trying to push my way of living on them. And that's what I wrote. One of the chapters that I wrote about in Let It Flow was about how nurses, we fail in the business world because of that. We get very territorial, we get very emotional, and we're unable to think rationally in a completely different environment. We have to understand that people don't care that you care. People don't care that you love the patients. People don't care that you're passionate. People care on how you're going to make them money. And that's it in that world. So.
Well, I think, one of the things that you see in healthcare, physicians, nurses, all of us, how many business courses do you take? I didn't take any. I was strictly science. So, and I'm sure very similar story for most nurses, most physicians. It kind of makes us bad business people when you get down to it. And,
absolutely. It was horrible.
But great visionaries, we see the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the whole key, is how do you fix the problem? That's what we want to do. We want to make life better for everyone. Even like I said, I brought this program. As you can tell, I'm getting older, and so I don't have to work as much anymore. I can enjoy life a bit. And that's why I decided to do something where I could bring it forward to how do we educate the next group of people? We used to put conferences on. I'm not seeing the young folks come to the conference anymore. And they're the ones who need it, because they're out there doing the practicing every day. And I started getting all these letters or emails back in saying, hey, show is the greatest thing. I'm new to urology. I'm really learning a lot. I'm checking out your show, and I'm seeing it in the viewership. So I know that the same way. I'm not, I'll probably never make a dime off of this. And right now it costs me money to produce. But the key is, I know I'm doing something good, and that's worth more to me than anything else. And I think if you're getting patients, like you said, telling you how it made a difference in their quality of life, you can't put a price tag on that. You can put a price tag on CathWare, but you can't put a price tag on that.
No way. It's been my fire. Somebody just sent me an email yesterday, and they're like, my wife is my wife again because of this product. Like, what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Well, can you buy more? No. Just go forward.
Yeah.
Just go forward, and you have to, they were not big. I'm a big proponent of celebrating milestones. It's in the mind, whatever you have to do in the mind to keep going. And I would celebrate these little milestones that we'd hit. Anytime we would get in contact with somebody, I'm like, guys, we're making progress, or a year marker, or when we're solidifying our share in the online on Amazon, and the force, we had like a 4.4 star rating for a while. Now it's a 4.1, and it's been at a 4.1 for like 3 years. Little things like that, celebrating little milestones. When we got the Medicare approval, when we would win these accelerator contests, invention contests, little things like that. The emails, I'd forward them. I just believe in celebrating those little milestones. And they didn't, they didn't. And it was hard, because I'm like, hey, and it was just me being happy. And it is what it is, but we're certainly making progress now.
Well, I can just see, just talking, at this program, your passion is definitely there, and that's really what makes a difference. A lot of people are, as you said, they're business people. They're just out to figure out, how can I turn over the largest profit, And, I asked the question about where it was manufactured, almost knowing the answer, because you have a responsibility to try to bring the product in at an affordable price. If it's made in America, but it costs $100, nobody's going to buy it. It's useless. So you have to, unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with now. Until manufacturing could be done more profitably here, you have to, go outside. I really like the fact that you got your mom and their friends working for you. I think that
they got their system. I was doing it for myself for a while with myself and my wife and the kids. And I'm like, I gotta break. I'm still working as a nurse. I work full time as a nurse.
Yeah, that's I was going to ask that question. Have you been able to just sit back and do this, or if it's?
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It hasn't generated a profit yet. I think this year will be our first year of making a profit. And I remember when I got the patent, I was in nursing school. I was in my second year of nursing school, and somebody said to me, "Oh, you already have a patent. You don't even have to go to nursing school."
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you already have a patent, so that means like getting a patent. That's the easy part.
Yeah,
it's establishing a business. It's getting everything in order and getting the product packaged and moving and making the calls, like going to trade shows. That's the real work."
Yeah, I think that's what people underestimate is
big time
the marketing involved and even like this little show. There's a lot of marketing that goes on, or I wouldn't have viewers. So if there's a certain amount of hours in a week that you have to put forward to kind of let people know about the show. And it's just and then patents. You can say, well, I've got a patent now. You got to come to me to manufacture something, but that's not true. Somebody could come up with something, a clone of your product. Now it's up to you to defend your patent. So it's going to cost you legal fees. Sometimes, if you're not a big enough company, and they could just, roll over you that way. So the patent is only so protective. It helps, it definitely helps, but it's not going to be the big, like you said, it's not the winner. It's the other thing is getting the market. Once you can reach a point where, that hospitals, anybody going home with a catheter bag, a leg bag, went home with your underwear, you're golden. You could probably give up nursing because it's going to be that profitable. But the reality is that's not going to happen. I don't see that, as the cost of everything else is going up, it's going to be a struggle to get people to even great products. Or, people are kind of questioning this versus that. But I think, once you see the quality of life issue come into it, that's huge. And these patients who suddenly become, homebound not because they have to be, but because they're embarrassed, they don't want to walk around with a bag that people know about. Sometimes there's odor involved in the bag, so they smell them. It's just all sorts of issues and problems that make them stay home. You've got one solution. You've got a way to almost completely conceal it. I would say, unless you're wearing really, skinny jeans, which most people don't our age, but it's going to be a concealable product. So it's great. I really think I think you got to hit and just keep pushing it. I don't see any other questions coming through. If you guys have any questions you want to ask Brian, well, we've got him on the line here. Otherwise, I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the show. I'm glad. If you have any final words you want to say, Brian?
Don't quit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't quit. It's been a long journey. I've grown as a nurse. I've grown as a person. I realized that there were other areas in my life where I was my emotions were not in control, and it's helped me be even keeled. It's helped me be even keeled. I'm able to approach the business now in a different way. I don't get too high. I don't get too low. It's helped me in my marriage. It's helped me with my patients. Just keep the expectations clear. So I've grown a lot from what I've learned from my business partners before I parted ways with them. Yeah. And there were areas that I didn't know, and I can be an effective leader, or more of an effective leader now. I'm able to manage my finances a lot better now that I've had to take on the managing of the finances of the business. Not that I was bad at before, but now I'm certainly a lot better. So I've grown as a person. My family has grown. You know, they've seen me consistently filling orders and, you know, always having hope. You know, every time something happens, I'll tell them, you know, this is it. This is the year, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm going on 10 years, 11 years now since I've had the design, 6 years since we've launched the business. And for 6 years, I'm always saying, this is the year, this is the year. But this is the year.
That shows how much is it work it takes to make something happen. It's not something you can just produce over. A great idea isn't going to just show up overnight.
It's not. And don't listen to people. You're welcome, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Elizabeth gave you a nice compliment.
It.
Wanted to share that with you.
Don't quit. It's a really long journey, you know, and you're not going to get a lot of people that are going to clap for you along the way, but you can clap for you along the way. So.
And I think that's something for nurses to remember. You know, we do get a lot of great ideas while we're out there. I can tell you that I'm one of these tinkerers too, and I've come up with an idea and I'll say, you know, oh, should have done that. And then maybe a few years later, I suddenly see it's in the market. I'm like, you know, missed that opportunity. So sometimes push it. And what was the name of the book if we want to learn more about becoming that entrepreneur?
Let It Flow.
Let It Flow. I like this. I like it. All right. So let's see here. Just want to put a plug in for next week's, let me get some of this stuff out of here, folks. For next week's program on June 17th, we have our panelists all joining us for this talk together. So myself, John Lynn, and Andrea Strong. And we're going to talk about virtual public speaking tips and tricks, what we're doing here right now, how we go about talking to you guys, and hopefully inspiring some of you to become speakers. And we're going to do that next week. So join us next week. Also, I just want to put a plug in. Hey, we're getting close to our 1-year anniversary. So put this on your calendar, July 29th, episode 52. Be sure to join us live. You want to join us live because we're going to have a lot of stuff going on. I've got some ideas, planning some raffling off some Euronurse stuff. So join us live. The only way you'll be able to be participating in that is to be on the live show. And hey, I got a surprise announcement. There's something that's going to be coming to Euronurse, something new. We'll announce it. I think I should have it ready for that 52nd episode. So we're working on that one too. And for those of you that just couldn't get enough and want to chat some more, just click that button that says the after party on our euronurse.com. It'll transport you right into the show. You'll be able to use your mic and cameras and be part of the talk. So if you want to join us after the show, be free to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, for those of you that aren't going to join us, hey, go ahead and have a great weekend. It looks like good weather here in the Chicagoland area. I hope it's good weather by you guys. Hope those forest fires up in Canada aren't causing too much smog over the East Coast anymore. That looked terrible, some of those pictures I saw. So our prayers are with all of you. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week.